My son texted me, "You're out of Parker Manufacturing. Don't contact us anymore. This is final." I stared at those words for about 30 seconds, feeling 25 years of building a business with my late wife crumble into dust. Then I typed back just 2 words. "Okay, Spencer." Right after that, I put down my phone and started systematically locking down everything. By morning, I had 47 missed calls, and they had lost access to every door of the $1.2 million manufacturing empire Caroline and I built from absolutely nothing. My name is Roland Parker. I'm 58 years old, and I thought I knew my son. Let me tell you how a Thursday afternoon in March turned my world upside down, and how I learned that sometimes the people you trust most are the ones planning to destroy you. But first, you need to understand what Parker Manufacturing means to me, and why losing it felt like losing Caroline all over again. Caroline and I started Parker Manufacturing in our garage in Dearborn back in 1998. We had nothing but a used Cincinnati Millicron lathe I bought at an auction, $8,500 in savings, and the willingness to work 16-hour days, 7 days a week. We specialized in precision automotive parts, brake component housings, transmission mount brackets, suspension bushings, the unglamorous stuff that keeps Detroit's automotive supply chain running. Caroline handled the books while I worked the machines. She was the one who figured out our pricing strategy, negotiated with suppliers, managed our cash flow when we were living paycheck to paycheck. We painted the shop walls on weekends, delivered parts in our pickup truck, and learned the manufacturing business one expensive mistake at a time. By 2010, we had our first real breakthrough, a contract with a Ford supplier for transmission mount brackets. Steady work, good margins, enough to lease our first real facility on 8 Mile Road. Caroline convinced me we needed employees, not just the two of us grinding 80-hour weeks. "Roland," she said, "we're building something bigger than ourselves here." She was right, like always. By the time Caroline passed from cancer 3 years ago, we had built Parker Manufacturing into a 3-location operation worth $1.2 million. Annual revenue of $3.8 million. 45 employees who felt like family. Contracts with Ford, GM, and Stellantis suppliers. A reputation for quality and on-time delivery that took 20 years to earn. Spencer had been with us for 14 years, since he was 21 years old and fresh out of community college with a manufacturing technology degree. I taught him every machine we owned, the CNC lathes, the Bridgeport mills, the coordinate measuring machine that cost us $85,000. Caroline taught him the business side, reading blueprints, understanding tolerances, managing inventory, dealing with customers. He was good at it. Natural mechanical aptitude, good with people, everything a father could want in a son taking over the family business. When Caroline got sick, Spencer stepped up as operations manager, handling day-to-day production, while I focused on caring for her. After Caroline died, Spencer and I ran Parker Manufacturing as partners. Equal decision-making, shared responsibilities. I handled engineering and customer relations. He managed production and personnel. It worked. The business grew. Employees respected him. Customers trusted him. Then he married Stephanie Crawford 2 years ago. Stephanie had an MBA from University of Michigan and 6 years' experience at automotive consulting firms. Impressive credentials, sharp business mind, always asking smart questions about our operations, our margins, our growth potential. She seemed genuinely interested in the business, often stopping by our main plant to review production schedules or analyze our cost structures with Spencer. I thought she was helping him become a better business leader. I was proud of the questions she was teaching him to ask, the strategic thinking she brought to our family business. I was completely, catastrophically wrong. What I didn't know, what Spencer didn't tell me, was that he had a gambling problem. Started innocent enough 3 years ago with occasional trips to MGM Grand Detroit with friends after work. poker, blackjack, slot machines. Nothing serious, just blowing off steam after 12-hour shifts. But after Caroline died, and the grief hit him hard, the casual gambling became something darker. Desperate attempts to feel something other than loss. Weekend trips to Atlantic City, online poker sites, sports betting that started small and spiraled into desperation. By the time Stephanie came into the picture, Spencer owed $180,000 to the kind of people who don't accept payment plans, the kind who make house calls when you're late. He never told me. Probably couldn't bear the shame of admitting he'd inherited his mother's business sense, but also inherited something else, an addictive personality that had latched onto the worst possible vice. Stephanie knew, though. She saw an opportunity in Spencer's desperation, and she was smart enough, patient enough, to exploit it systematically. That Thursday afternoon in March, I was at our Dearborn facility, inspecting a batch of brake component housings for a Ford supplier. Quality control issue. A new employee had miscalibrated our Haas CNC machine, and we were seeing dimensional variations outside specification. Nothing catastrophic, but the kind of problem that can cost you a customer if you don't catch it fast. I was measuring housing bore diameters with our digital calipers when my phone buzzed. Spencer's name on the screen. I expected a routine operations update, maybe a question about the rework schedule for the out-of-spec parts. Instead, I read words that stopped my heart. "You're out of Parker Manufacturing. Don't contact us anymore. This is final." I read it once, twice, 3 times. My son, the boy I taught to read micrometers when he was 16, had just told me I was out of the business. Caroline and I built together. For about 30 seconds, I felt my entire world tilt sideways. 25 years of building something meaningful, something lasting, something worth passing down, gone with a text message. Then the part of my brain that had managed manufacturing operations for a quarter century quietly kicked in. The systematic, methodical part that Caroline always said would serve me well in a crisis. I did not call Spencer back. I did not text angry questions. I did not drive to the main plant to demand explanations. Instead, I typed, "Okay, Spencer," and hit send. Then I opened my laptop and began systematically dismantling their lives. If they wanted me out, they were going to learn exactly what that meant. I logged into our Wells Fargo business banking portal and changed every password. Checking accounts, savings, our equipment financing line of credit, everything. Then I methodically revoked Spencer's access to all accounts. Stephanie's too. Somehow she had gotten financial access 6 months ago. Something I was just now realizing had been a massive red flag. Every signature authority that had my name on it, I locked down. Purchase orders, vendor payments, payroll processing, equipment leases. All of it required my physical presence and written authorization from this moment forward. Next, I called Preston Brooks, our corporate attorney for the past 15 years. Preston had handled everything from our LLC formation to Caroline's estate planning. If anyone understood the legal framework of Parker Manufacturing, it was him. "Preston, this is Roland. I need you to immediately freeze any changes to Parker Manufacturing's corporate structure. Nothing gets signed, nothing gets transferred, nothing gets modified without my physical presence and written authorization." "Roland, what's happening? You sound like you're under siege." "I am. Spencer just told me I'm out of the company. I'll explain everything later, but right now I need every legal door locked. Down." "Consider it done. I'll send cease and desist notices to every financial institution we work with. No changes without your signature, witnessed and notarized." Then I drove to our main plant on 8 Mile Road. The parking lot was almost empty. Second shift had ended an hour ago, and our skeleton night crew was handling the automated CNC runs that didn't require constant supervision. Quincy Adams was in his office reviewing tomorrow's production schedule. Quincy had been our plant supervisor for 18 years, since back when we only had 12 employees, and Caroline still did the books on a desktop computer in the corner office. Quincy, I need to ask you something, and I need complete honesty. How has Spencer been acting lately? Any changes you've noticed? Quincy set down his clipboard and looked uncomfortable. He was a straight shooter, never one for office politics, but he obviously knew something was wrong. Mr. Parker, I've been worried about Spencer for months. He's been different. Stressed, jumpy, making decisions that don't make operational sense. And that wife of his has been here almost every day since October, sitting in on production meetings, asking questions about our margins, our equipment values, our customer contracts. What kind of questions? Business valuation stuff. What our machinery is worth, how much we could get if we had to liquidate inventory quickly, which customers pay fastest. It felt like she was doing some kind of audit, but Spencer said she was just helping him understand the business better. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. How long has this been going on? Since maybe October. Started subtle, but by Christmas it was every day. She'd be in here by 7 a.m., gone through our production reports before Spencer even arrived. It was like she was running reconnaissance. I thanked Quincy and walked through our main production floor. Rows of CNC machines sitting idle until morning shift. Our Haas VF2 machining center that could hold tolerances to 0.00 inches. The coordinate measuring machine we'd saved 2 years to buy. The automated parts washer that cleaned components before final inspection. 25 years of building this operation piece by piece. Every machine represented months of saving, careful planning, calculated risk. Carolyn and I used to walk this same floor on Sunday afternoons, planning the next upgrade, the next expansion. Now Spencer and Stephanie were treating it like a commodity to be liquidated. By 6 p.m., every access point they thought they could use was locked, and I was the only one with the keys. That's when my phone started ringing. First Spencer, then Stephanie. By the time I reached my house in Grosse Pointe, the phone had rung 8 times. I walked inside, set it on the kitchen counter, and watched it light up with each incoming call. I didn't answer. At 9:30 p.m., I poured myself 2 fingers of Jameson, the same Irish whiskey Caroline and I used to share when we celebrated landing a new contract, and sat in the living room where we used to discuss business strategy after dinner. The house felt too big, too quiet. Caroline's reading chair still sat next to mine, a bookmark still marking her place in the last novel she never finished. I hope I'm doing this right, I said out loud to the empty room. The house didn't answer, but somehow I felt like Caroline would have approved. She always said the most dangerous people were the ones who smiled while they planned your destruction. At midnight, I turned off my phone without checking messages. I woke Friday morning to my phone vibrating against the nightstand in short, angry bursts. 47 missed calls, 25 from Spencer, 16 from Stephanie, 4 from numbers I didn't recognize, and 2 from Preston Brooks. The fact that Preston had called twice made my stomach drop. Our attorney didn't work nights unless something was seriously wrong. I called him first. Preston, what's the emergency? Can you be at my office in 30 minutes? We have a major problem. I'll be there in 20. At 8:30, I was sitting across from Preston's desk in downtown Detroit, looking at a folder full of documents I'd never seen before. Bank transfer authorizations, corporate amendments, signature pages that supposedly bore my name. Roland, these were filed with the county clerk 6 months ago. They show Stephanie being added as a managing member of Parker Manufacturing LLC with full financial authority. The paperwork is dated October 15th. I leaned forward and studied the signature line. It looked like my signature, but something was wrong. The loop on my R was too narrow, and the stroke weight was inconsistent with my usual pen pressure. I never signed this, Preston. I know. That's not your signature. Someone forged it. He pointed to the discrepancies. They were good, but not perfect. The timing is wrong, too. October 15th was a Saturday. You never do business paperwork on weekends. October 15th. 6 months. Ago. While I was dealing with Caroline's medical bills and trying to keep the business running, they were forging documents to steal it from me. There's more, Preston continued. He picked up his phone and dialed our financial advisor. Garrett Wells. Garrett had handled our business banking relationship for 20 years, since we were still operating out of that garage in Dearborn. His voice came through the speaker, quieter than usual. Roland, I need to tell you something I should have told you months ago. Spencer and Stephanie came to see me in November. They said you were having memory problems, that the stress since Carolyn died was affecting your judgment. They asked me to help transition financial authority to Spencer. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. My own son, telling professional partners that I was mentally incompetent. What did you say, Garrett? I told them absolutely not. I've worked with you for 20 years, Roland. I've never seen any sign of cognitive decline. You're as sharp as you've ever been. I told them if they wanted to make changes to account authorities, they needed to bring you to a meeting and discuss it openly. Did they come back? Never. But 2 weeks later, I got a call from a different bank asking for references on Parker Manufacturing. Someone was shopping for new business banking relationships. 4 months of spreading lies about my mental state, forging legal documents, building alternative financial relationships. This wasn't a desperate grab for money. This was a systematic campaign to steal my life's work. By Saturday morning, I realized the damage wasn't just financial and legal. It was everywhere. My reputation, my relationships, even my own community had been weaponized against me. I met Clifford Stone for coffee at a diner near the Ford Rouge plant. Cliff and I went back 15 years through the Michigan Manufacturers Association. He was the kind of guy who knew everyone in Detroit's automotive supply chain, a walking network of industry relationships. We were 10 minutes into conversation about the latest UAW negotiations when he said something that made my blood run cold. So Spencer's taking over Parker Manufacturing because you're stepping down for health reasons? I set my coffee cup down carefully. What did you say? Cliff looked confused. That's what I heard at Thursday night's MMA meeting. Jim Kellerman mentioned it, said your memory wasn't what it used to be, and Spencer was transitioning into full control. People were saying it like it was common knowledge. The diner suddenly felt too small, too hot. Who was saying this, Cliff? I don't remember exactly. It was just going around the room. Maybe started with someone from Continental Automotive, or maybe it was Tom from Lear Corporation. You know how these things spread at association meetings. The rumor wasn't just with financial advisors and attorneys. It was in the professional community where I'd spent 25 years building relationships, earning respect, establishing credibility. People I had worked with for decades were hearing stories about my declining health, my failing memory, my voluntary retirement. Cliff, I said quietly, I'm not retiring. I'm not sick, and my memory is fine. What you heard is a deliberate lie designed to make it look legitimate when my son tries to steal my company. His face changed completely. The easy familiarity disappeared, replaced by the sharp attention of a businessman who suddenly realized he was witnessing something serious. Roland, I had no idea. I'm sorry for even bringing it up. It's not your fault, but I need you to know the truth, and I need you to help me understand how far this has spread. After coffee, I drove home to Grosse Pointe and made a list of every professional relationship I could think of: suppliers, customers, industry colleagues, banking partners. Then I started making calls. By Sunday afternoon, the scope of the character assassination was clear. The story had been spreading for months through Detroit's tight-knit automotive supplier network. Roland Parker was declining mentally. Spencer Parker was heroically stepping up to save the family business. Stephanie Parker, with her MBA and fresh perspective, was helping modernize operations. It was a perfect narrative. Sympathetic, believable, and completely false. Sunday evening, I got a call that changed everything. "Mr. Parker, this is Anthony Martinez from our Romulus facility. I'm the second shift supervisor there. I think you need to know what I found." Anthony had been with us for 8 years, a solid guy who ran our smaller operation that specialized in transmission components. He'd worked his way up from machine operator to supervisor, exactly the kind of employee progression Caroline and I had always encouraged. "What did you find, Anthony?" "I was cleaning out some old filing cabinets Friday night, and I found documents I don't think Spencer meant to leave behind. Banking papers, transfer forms with your signature that don't look right to me, and there's something else. Stephanie was here 3 weeks ago with some guy in a suit, taking photos of our equipment, measuring floor space. They told me they were doing an insurance appraisal, but it felt wrong." "What kind of documents?" "Asset transfer forms, equipment valuations, something that looked like a business sale contract with blanks, where the buyer's name should go. All dated back to October, but I've never seen them before." I felt pieces of a puzzle clicking together. "Anthony, can you secure those documents? Don't let anyone know you have them. I'll be there in an hour." "Already locked them in my desk. Nobody else has access." At 8:30 p.m., I was sitting in Anthony's cramped office at our Romulus plant, looking at documents that made my stomach drop. Equipment appraisals listing our machinery at quick sale values. Asset transfer forms that would legally strip Parker Manufacturing down to an empty shell. Purchase agreements that would convert our manufacturing operation into cash in less than 30 days. This wasn't just theft, it was liquidation. They weren't planning to run Parker Manufacturing. They were planning to sell it off piece by piece and disappear with the proceeds. Monday morning brought the final piece of evidence I needed. Preston Brooks called at 8:15 a.m. His voice was different, the careful tone lawyers use when they've discovered something that changes everything. "Roland, while I was researching similar fraud cases over the weekend, I found something else. Court records show that Stephanie hired a divorce attorney on October 15th. I was standing in my kitchen, the same kitchen where Caroline and I used to plan our business strategy over morning coffee. I sat down slowly. October 15th, the same day those forged documents were dated. Exactly, Diana Murphy and Associates, downtown Detroit. Stephanie paid a $12,500 retainer from a personal account that has no connection to Spencer. This was completely separate from any joint finances. The timeline suddenly made perfect sense. October 15th, forged documents to steal the company. October 15th, hire divorce attorney to steal from Spencer. What's her strategy, Preston? Under Michigan law, business assets acquired during marriage are subject to equitable division. If Spencer had succeeded in taking Parker Manufacturing from you, Stephanie could have immediately filed for divorce and claimed 40% to 50% of its value as marital property. I did the math. $1.2 million. 40% to 50%. $480,000 to $600,000. She was going to help Spencer steal from me, then steal from him. My son was destroying his relationship with me for a woman who was planning to destroy him. Preston, I want to arrange a meeting. Tomorrow night, 7:00 p.m. at my house. Spencer, Stephanie, you as my attorney. I'm going to lay out every piece of evidence at once. What's your goal here, Roland? Truth. I want Spencer to see exactly what he's been used for. And I want Stephanie to understand that her game is over. The certified letter went out Monday afternoon. Legal language, professional tone, but the message was unmistakable. Appear Tuesday night or face formal litigation for fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. By Monday evening, they knew I wasn't the confused, declining old man they'd been telling everyone about. They were about to learn exactly who they'd been trying to destroy. Tuesday evening arrived gray and cold. I spent the afternoon at our main plant, walking through the production floor one last time before the confrontation that would determine Parker Manufacturing's future. Our employees were finishing second shift, unaware that their livelihoods hung in the balance of what would happen in my dining room in 3 hours. At 6:30, I cleared my kitchen table. The folder of evidence in the center. 2 chairs on the opposite side for Spencer and Stephanie. Preston's chair to my right. 4 water glasses. Nothing else. This was the same table where Caroline and I used to review weekly production reports every Sunday morning, where we celebrated landing our first Ford supplier contract in 2010, where we held hands and cried the night her oncologist told us the cancer had spread. Now it was going to be where I showed my son exactly what his wife had planned to take from both of us. Preston arrived at 6:55, briefcase in hand, legal pad ready. We didn't talk much. There was nothing left to say that wouldn't be said in the next hour. At 7:04, Spencer's Chevy Silverado pulled into my driveway. 4 minutes late, probably Stephanie's attempt at a power play. Spencer knocked once, then opened the door without waiting. No greeting, no eye contact. He looked thinner than I remembered, stress lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 6 months ago. The $180,000 gambling debt was written in every exhausted line of his face. Stephanie walked in behind him, confident and composed. Navy. Blue business suit, leather portfolio, the look of someone attending a negotiation she expected to win. She sat down directly across from me and met my eyes without flinching. Spencer sat beside her, staring at the table like he already knew this wasn't going to end well for him. I looked at Spencer one last time. My boy, the child Caroline and I raised in this house, the young man I taught to run every machine in our shop, the son I trusted with everything we built. Then I opened the folder. 6 days ago, you sent me a text message telling me I was out of Parker Manufacturing. I trusted you with our family business, Spencer. I brought you in because I wanted you to have what your mother and I spent 25 years building, and you tried to steal it from me. Spencer started to speak. I held up one hand. You'll have your turn. Right now, you listen. I pulled out the first document, the forged LLC amendment from October 15th. This was filed 6 months ago. It shows Stephanie as a managing member with full financial authority. The signature is supposed to be mine, but it's not. I pointed to the discrepancies Preston had identified. Someone forged my signature on legal documents. That's felony fraud, Spencer. I watched his face crumble as he recognized the implications. 4 months ago, you and Stephanie went to Garrett Wells. You told him I was having memory problems, that I was mentally declining. You asked him to help transfer financial authority away from me. Garrett refused because there was nothing wrong with my memory. You were spreading lies about my mental competence to steal my business. I pulled out the supplier emails, the equipment appraisals, the liquidation plans Anthony had found. This isn't just theft, Spencer. This is systematic destruction. You weren't planning to run Parker Manufacturing. You were planning to sell it off piece by piece and pocket the proceeds. Spencer was shaking now, his hands clenched in his lap. The gambling debt, I said, quietly. I know about the $180,000 you owe. I know about the pressure you've been under. I understand why you felt desperate enough to do this. His head snapped up, eyes wide. How did you? Because I'm your father, and I should have seen the signs earlier. But understanding your desperation doesn't excuse what you've done. I reached into the folder one final time and pulled out a manila envelope. The divorce attorney retainer agreement. The moment of truth. There's one more thing you need to know about your wife, Spencer. I slid the envelope across the table. He picked it up with trembling hands and opened it. I watched his face as he read. The shock, the disbelief, the dawning realization of how completely he'd been used. October 15th, he whispered. The same day you started planning to take Dad's company. Stephanie hired Diana Murphy and Associates on the exact same day you forged those documents, I said. She paid a $12,500 divorce retainer from her personal account. Under Michigan law, if you had succeeded in stealing Parker Manufacturing, she could have immediately filed for divorce and claimed 40% to 50% of its value as marital property. Spencer stood up slowly, the papers crumpled in his fist. When he spoke, his voice was broken. I destroyed my relationship with my father for you. I committed fraud. I tried to steal everything he and Mom built together. And you were planning to divorce me and take half the proceeds the whole time. Stephanie sat perfectly still, her expression never changing. No guilt, no shame, no emotion at all. Say something, Spencer pleaded. She picked up her portfolio and stood gracefully. Her voice, when it came, was ice cold. Did I love you, Spencer? No, not once. Were you easy to manipulate? Pathetically so. Spencer's face went white. She turned to me. You won this round, Roland, but you lost your son forever. Was it worth it? Without another word, she walked to the door. Her heels clicked. On the hardwood floor, Caroline and I had refinished together 15 years ago. The door closed behind her with quiet finality. The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Spencer sat staring at the divorce papers. I stared at the door she'd just walked through. Preston spoke quietly. I've documented everything said here tonight. Every admission, every statement. I nodded. Spencer, Preston will draft the legal documents. You'll sign complete relinquishment of all claims to Parker Manufacturing, or we file criminal fraud charges by Friday. Spencer didn't look up. His voice was barely a whisper. I'll sign. I stood and walked toward the door. Behind me, Spencer called out. Dad. Don't, I said without turning around. You chose this path, Spencer. You sent that text. You forged my signature. You tried to destroy what your mother and I built together. I'm sorry Stephanie used you, but your desperation doesn't erase your betrayal. I walked outside and sat in my truck, watching Preston pack his briefcase through the window. Spencer remained at the table, head in his hands, finally understanding the full cost of his choices. The following Monday, Preston called. It's done. Spencer signed everything. Parker Manufacturing is yours, completely and permanently. 6 months later, Parker Manufacturing was thriving under new management structure. I brought in a professional operations team and promoted Quincy Adams to general manager. The business was secure, the employees protected, Caroline's legacy preserved. I heard through industry contacts that Spencer was working construction, living alone in a small apartment in Warren. He never tried to contact me. Stephanie had vanished. Some said Texas, others Florida. The divorce was finalized. She got nothing because Spencer had nothing left to take. 1 year after that March text message, I was at our main plant calibrating a new Haas machine when Anthony Martinez brought me coffee. Most owners don't do this, hands-on work anymore, he said. I like staying connected to what we build, I told him. After he left, I stood on the production floor Caroline and I had designed together. Every machine, every process, every safety protocol represented years of shared dreams and sacrifices. People ask if I'll ever forgive Spencer. I tell them I already have. Forgiveness doesn't mean trust. It doesn't mean relationship. It means I stopped letting his choices control my life. I protected what Caroline and I built. That's not cruelty. That's honoring her memory and the 45 families who depend on Parker Manufacturing for their livelihoods. Sometimes the hardest thing you can do is say no to someone you love. Sometimes protecting what you've built means accepting that family can be your greatest threat. Trust is earned in years, but destroyed in seconds. Once it's gone, blood alone can't rebuild it. If my story helps one person recognize manipulation before it destroys them, then maybe losing my son taught me something worth sharing. Every night, I pray for Spencer. I hope he finds his way back to the man I raised him to be. But my job isn't to rescue him anymore. It's to honor Caroline and protect what we built together. That's a lesson I wish I'd learned before it cost me everything. The hardest truth I've learned is this: love without boundaries isn't love. It's enablement. And sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to be destroyed by the person you die to protect.